All right, these are the questions that you missed on the Unit 8 test. So I want to go over these and then give you an opportunity to earn back some points. So just going to go over these quickly. So hopefully that you understand why you missed them. So the first one is how many terms are in the expression when simplified? So you have to take this expression and simplify it. So you have to distribute the negative first and then combine like terms. So I bring over the 2x, the plus 3xy, then I have negative x and negative y. So I've got negative x, negative y, and then bring over the plus 2. When I do that, I have two terms that have an x. So I've got 2x minus x is x, plus 3xy. You cannot combine those because they have different variables, minus y, and then plus 2. Since that's a number without a variable, again, it has to be separate. So how many terms are in the expression when simplified? So you got one term, two terms, three terms, and four terms. So basically your terms are divided up by the addition and subtraction signs. So the first one is 4 terms. All right, so the next one says, what is the coefficient of the second term of the expression 3x to the fourth plus x squared? So the second term is the x squared. So what's the coefficient? That means the number in front of the variable. When there's no number present, it's assumed to be a 1. Remember, if it's 0 times anything, it's 0, and you wouldn't actually have an x squared. So when there's no coefficient there, it's assumed to be a 1. All right, the next question said, Amira can spend at most $40 at the fair. It cost her $12 to enter the fair and $3 per ticket T to ride the rides. So if it cost her, if she can spend at most $40, that means she has $40 in her pocket. She can't spend any more because that's all she's got. Okay, so at most $40. It costs $12 to get in, so 40 minus 12 is $28. So she has $28 to spend on tickets. Each ticket costs $3, so she can do 3 times T has to be less than or equal to 28. Okay, so this is reversed, 28 greater than or equal to 3T. But remember, when you switch and put the 3T on the left, you have to switch the inequality sign as well. So 3T, 3 times the number of tickets, has to be less than or equal to the $28 that she has left after paying the $12 to get in. All right, the next question says the triangle shown has a perimeter of 57. What are the lengths of the 3 sides? Remember, perimeter, definition of perimeter means you add up the 3 sides. So that means these 3 sides equal 57. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take 2x plus 4x minus 7 plus x plus 15 and set that equal to 57. So that's what I did here. Then I'm going to combine like terms. So 2 plus 4 plus 1, or let's see, 2, is that a minus 4? No, plus 4. 6 plus 1 is 7. So 2, 6, 7x. And then negative 7 plus 15 is 8. And that still equals 57. Subtract 8 from both sides. 7x equals 49. Divide by 7x equals 7. Once you figure out what x is, you do 2 times x. 2 times 7 is 14. 4 times 7 minus 7. So 4 times 7 is 28. Minus 7 is 21. And then 7 plus 15 is 22. You can check this by doing 14 plus 21 plus 22 to make sure that equals 57. And it does. We know that the 3 sides added together has to equal 57. So there's an easy way to check that one. All right, the next question says, Jalecia solved a linear equation. Her work is in the box. Which property did Jalecia not use to solve the equation? So the first step, 2 times 3x minus 3. So this is distributive property. You do 2 times 3x is 6x. 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And then from here, we added 6 to both sides. And so we used addition property. and we did distributive property, and the next step, you divide both sides by 6, would be division property. So the only property that was not used, which one did she not use, is subtraction property. All right, the next question says, characteristics of the quadratic function f of x equals x squared minus 8x minus 20 are illustrated by first completing the square for the equation. The table shows 4 statements. Use the choice matrix to indicate if each statement is true or false for the quadratic function. All right, so you can see here the only thing they did was replace the f of x with 0. And then they want to know, is this an equivalent function to this? So the quickest and easiest way to do this is by using your graphing calculator and just compare the 2 functions. So I already have the first function graphed here. So you can see this is the function x squared minus 8x minus 20. And I want to know if this is an equivalent function. If this is an equivalent function, then that means it will be right on top of the other function. It would be exactly the same function. That's what it means to be equivalent. All right, so in order to put this in my calculator, I have to subtract 4 and set it equal to 0. So if I put my x minus 4 quantity squared, and then I hit minus 4, that's just another way to write this and set it equal to 0. So let's hit graph and see if it's the same function or an equivalent function. And you can see the red line here is not on top of the blue line, so that's why this one is false. That is not an equivalent function. All right, axis of symmetry. Okay, so we're only looking at the blue one. The axis of symmetry is 4. So if you count over 1, 2, 3, 4, it looks like that goes through both of those, so that is true. The lowest point is 4, 4. So go over 1, 2, 3, 4, up 4 would be the axis of symmetry. This one is obviously negative. I don't know what negative, but that one would be false because that is not the lowest point. And then the roots are the same thing as your x-intercepts. So does x equal negative 2 and x equal 10? So you can see here x equals 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that is true. You can see that the x-intercepts, or the roots is another word. It's just a definition you need to know for x-intercepts. All right, this question says Ellen and Monty are solving the equation. The quantity of x plus 3 squared minus 64 equals 0. Ellen argues that one way to solve the equation is to first multiply out x plus 3, simplify the result, and then factor the quadratic equation. So x plus 3 squared is the same thing as x plus 3 times x plus 3. All right. Monty argues that the equation can be solved by adding 64. So this is minus 64 if you add 64. And then take the square root of both sides. Take the square root, you get a plus minus answer, and that would work as well. So it says which students is or are correct and why. So both Ellen and Monty are correct because both result in the same correct answer. So if you solve these, you will see that there is multiple ways to solve quadratic equations, and both of these students had a correct method, and they should get the same answer if solved correctly. Okay? All right, the next question is another one where it says find an equivalent form. So it says consider the quadratic, negative 2x squared plus 12x minus 16. I have went ahead and graphed this. Again, this is not the way we should be looking at it, but leading up to standardized tests, I want the quickest and easiest way for you to understand it. So an equivalent form, if graphed, should look like this one. So let's go ahead and graph this one. So we're going to put in negative 2, parentheses, x minus 3. Quantity squared, and then plus 2. So if these two equations are equivalent, this one's going to be on top of the other one. So you can see the red line just went right on top of the blue line. So that is an equivalent function. You can quickly check these others. but they're not going to be equivalent. So if you want to do -2, parentheses, x minus 6 squared minus 8. This one has a different vertex, so you're going to see that function shows up different. And if you do the other two, you'll see the exact same thing. So this equation and this equation are equivalent, and x equals 2 and x equals 4 are your solutions. That's your two x-intercepts. All right, the next one says which equation represents the solution of the quadratic equation 3x squared minus 2x minus 5. So A, B, and C, we're going to set this up to do the quadratic formula. So A is 3, B is -2, C is -5. The quadratic formula, x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So -b, -2 would be 2, plus or minus the square root of b, -2 squared, minus 4 times 3 times -5 over 2 times 3. So if you look down through here, they did not finish the quadratic formula. They stopped at this step by just plugging it in. So B, or the second answer, would be correct. All right, the next one says the equation x plus -5 quantity squared equals 1 is equivalent to the equation x squared minus 10x plus 24 equals 0. All right, so if I look at this, I can complete the square. I can take the middle term here. I can half it and then square it. If I half it, I get -5. -5 squared is 25. So you know that they've had to move 1 to the other side because this only says 24. So this squared equals 1 would be equivalent to this expression. Again, a quick way to check that if you don't understand factoring or you don't visualize the equations like this, graph this equation and then subtract 1 from the other side and graph x minus 5 quantity squared minus 1. And if these two are equivalent, they would end up on the same line on your graph. It's just an easy way to check it and make sure that your answers are correct. All right, the next one says which values are solutions of the equation 2/3 times x squared equals 54. We're trying to solve for x. So to get rid of 2/3, you multiply by the reciprocal, 3/2. So this becomes 6/6. It disappears. And if I do it to one side of the equation, I do it to the other side. 54 times 3/2 is 81. So I have x squared equals 81. Take the square root of both sides. X equals plus or minus 9. Select all that apply. There's -9, but there's no +9. So that is your only solution there. All right, the last one says match each quadratic with the solution that satisfies it. Answers may be used more than once. All right, so you got 4x squared equals 196. Divide both sides by 4. X squared equals 49. Take the square root of both sides, you get plus or minus 7. All right, the next one, also very simple. Subtract 8 from both sides. So you got -3x squared equals -8. Divide both sides by -3. And you're going to have x squared equals 8/3. Two negatives make that a positive. So x squared equals 8/3. So the answer down here you can see is left as a square root. So it's plus or minus the square root of 8/3. The last one, 4x squared minus x minus 6. You're going to have to find a is 4, b is -1, c is -6. Plug this into the quadratic formula, simplify, and you get this answer right here. So I hope this helps. Go over these. Please ask some questions. If you need some more practice, let me know. We'll do that. But then I'll give you an opportunity to do some different questions to maybe earn back points on your test. Have a good night.